The military of Ios and the retribution of Skyrah. The organization of the armed forces committed to the retribution of Skyrah is evolving as its leaders guide the sect through a massive transition. Not long ago, the Retribution was an outlawed fringe organization of zealous and violent fanatics. Their goal has always been the eradication of human wizards and sorcerers, whom they hold responsible for the ills of their species. Until recently, they have had to work in secret from numerous cells within neighboring human kingdoms. Now things have changed. Their message has found a voice inside Ios, and they have won new allies to their cause. They are no longer forced to hide their affiliations and have begun to organize into an army capable of waging open warfare. Though the Retribution represents a minority in Ios, it is growing rapidly, and recent events promise that even more converts will be coming to their aid. The Retribution is now large and influential enough to abandon secrecy at home and to become a recognized political, religious, and military power. The Retribution has gained access to a significant portion of the armed might of the nations, including hundreds of Myrmidons and the Dawn Guard legions of House Nyar, who are among Ios' most formidable warriors. While their size and scope of their military capacity has increased nearly 100-fold from what it was originally, their armies remains relatively small compared to the nations by which they plan to strike out against. They are also competing for resources inside their own borders of Ios, with forces assigned to defend the nation's borders, collectively referred to as the Home Guard Coalition. This has prompted the Retribution to adopt unconventional strategies, including a unique doctrine of engagement. They wield their forces like a spear set against the weakest point in the armor of their enemies. Comprehensive reconnaissance combined with rapid redeployment is the key to the Retribution strategy. Their forces are uniquely equipped to wage this type of warfare and thereby represent a threat greater than the numbers alone might suggest. Working to the Retribution's advantage is the fact that the human kingdoms know very little about them, while their own intelligence gathering efforts have been extremely thorough. Ios has not been involved with any significant external war in its entire history, largely due to its prolonged policy of isolationism and its fearsome reputation for protecting its own borders. Some might even expect this to mean Iosan soldiers are inexperienced at waging war, but the military has enforced extensive training and discipline to keep the nation at a constant martial readiness throughout its entire existence. Several internal clashes unknown to the outside world have additionally helped hone their fighting prowess. The true reason Ios sealed its borders in 581 AR was to conceal the onset of a brutal and bloody civil war. This War of the Houses left a lasting legacy, and many Iosan soldiers are veterans of this conflict. The resolve of Iosan soldiers is strengthened by the knowledge that they fight for the survival as a species. They intend to strike against enemies thought to have played a hand in the extinction of their gods. At their core, they remain a fiercely dedicated and religiously charged organization that now has access to a powerful and sophisticated armory, as well as sufficient soldiers to wage war against humanity itself. A military divided. There is a significant distinction between the Retribution military and the forces serving the Iosan government. The rise of the Retribution has divided and placed additional strains on the Home Guard Coalition. The collective army sworn to defend the borders of Ios. Furthermore, there are considerable differences among the warriors of the Retribution itself. Its soldiers are not all of one mind or purpose, nor do they recognize the same chain of command. The Home Guard Coalition. For centuries, Ios's unassailable borders have been supervised by 5 of the Halatier, or the High Houses. These are the 5 great military houses of Ios: Erwin, Isian, Nyar, Reislier, and Siloin. Each is responsible for overseeing key Iosan fortresses as well as contributing to border patrols and interior garrisons. A complex arrangement of rotating personnel has become a regular part of Iosan military custom as soldiers periodically relocate to posts across the entire realm. Each house has its own practices and specialities, but these forces as a whole are called the Home Guard Coalition. Led by the 5 great military houses, the Home Guard includes soldiers drawn from the ranks of dozens of lesser houses who collectively share responsibility for the defense of Ios. In theory, the Iosan's army practices voluntary enlistment, but in practice, many individuals succumb to pressure to enlist in order to meet their social obligations or to increase their opportunities for advancement. Officer commissions within the Home Guard Coalition are considered lucrative and socially advantageous careers, and such a background is essential for Ios seeking higher stations in life. Military service is divided into 10-year increments. It is common for young elves from any background to enlist for at least a single term. Even smaller number enlist repeatedly, possibly becoming career soldiers. Enlistment is widespread at both extremes of the social spectrum for different reasons. Poor families encourage sons or daughters to enlist because it removes them as a strain on family resources and allows them to improve their family standing. Some may return a portion of their military wages to their kin. Members of the affluent houses, particularly the 5 great military houses, are expected to serve several terms of service to learn skills considered essential to their leadership roles. Many noble sons and daughters, not being groomed as heirs, become career soldiers, regardless of other skills or talents. The lesser houses beholden to the Haltair are expected to do their part to help fill in the ranks. A variety of political and social pressures can be brought to bear on them to ensure this enlistment. It's not uncommon for family pressures to require a soldier to serve at least 1 or 2 terms before being released to pursue outside avocations. This system has helped to ensure a sufficiently standing army, but it also means its soldiers are not equally diligent or skilled. The Home Guard Coalition suffers from opportunists and inept officers focusing on securing safe and lucrative posts. The officers from the 5 great houses, however, are among the nation's best and best trained and most dedicated, as their standing in the houses is inexorably tied to their records of service. The guiding hands of these professionals has served to maintain the overall quality of the coalition, despite the inadequacies of some of their peers. While each of the 5 great military houses has a well-rounded military force, they also have a number of specialities as well. For example, House Nyar is known for its heavy infantry trained to fight closely alongside Myrmidons. House Erwin boasts Ios' most renowned and tactically aggressive swordsmen. House Ishian takes pride in its famed cavalry, intended to be able to move more rapidly than any threatened region along the border. House Raushir is known for the accuracy of both its archers and its riflemen. And House Silervin's pious and ritualistic soldiers are oath-sworn to protect the Iosan capital of Shir to the last. The largest standing border garrison guards the Gate of Mists, the great southwestern fortress serving as the entry point to Ios proper. A sizable secondary garrison keeps watch on the north at the Gate of Storms, which faces the Ruick border. Ios has never had a major conflict with Rule, but has kept this fortress heavily manned regardless. While the placement at the Erin Darengard has made its defenses less relevant to Western threats, it was originally built to guard Ios' eastern border against enemies that might follow across the wastes. Given recent increases in Scorn activity, this fortress stands at a constant alert. Even while the majority of the Dawn Guard have marched to join the Retribution, a strong reserve garrison remains here. The largest interior garrison is Aether Erwin, a massive training fortress that helps forge House Guard from assorted backgrounds into a cohesive company. There is also a sizable garrison directly protecting Sheer. House Shirowin leads this force, and which includes a select honor guard which members from each of the Great Five military houses. Smaller barracks exist throughout Ios, including the cities of Ithris and Laishinal. Over the last 2 decades, the ruling council authorized the construction of a chain of smaller border fortresses that connects the major garrisons and support patrols. Myrmidons accompany border patrols primarily composed of infantry and cavalry. Bolstering the patrols are the surveillance efforts provided by diviners within the Home Guard coalition who watch the nation's borders. These diviners employ a variety of arctic scrying devices in their work, making it very difficult for outsiders to violate the Iosan border without drawing immediate notice and brutal reprisal. The Home Guard coalition has changed in the wake of the Retribution's mobilizations, but remains sufficiently intact. Addendum. Military ranks. There are symbols designated the ranks within the Dawn Guard and the House Guard military forces. Lieutenant, Captain, Thane, Sire, Esire, and Isire. Mage hunters do not use visible insignia to designate ranks and follow a less formal hierarchy. Commander is the main designation for a veteran mage hunter entrusted to supervise large groups. The highest-ranking military leaders earn unique descriptive titles intended to represent their own contributions to the cause. Authority among these titles is based on seniority and reputation. And addendum. The fact that one of the 5 great military houses has openly embraced the Retribution cause has roused great turmoil in the political circles, but has a less immediate impact on the border defenses. Erwin Dawnguard, House Nair's primary fortress, has always been geographically remote. Its elite Dawnguard has never had a major part in southern border patrols, so their recent absence has had little real impact. Council Salian Nair has vowed that a small force of his soldiers will help guard Sire, and that House Nair will maintain other major garrisons. But fully 2/3 of its active soldiers now march openly in the service of the Retribution. Of graver concern to the other military houses is the fact that House Shael has pledged its support, and more importantly, its Myrmidon reserves and future production to the Retribution. Although House Shiel is not technically a military house, it is the foremost producer of Iosan warjacks. The house has a virtual monopoly on the most advanced Myrmidon arcanic, and has a particularly strong hold on manufacturing as well. In addition to providing support personnel, Shiel has also dispatched several warcasters to serve the Retribution cause. The house's largest rival in this industry is House Vierer, which hopes to increase its own standing by filling military contracts abandoned by House Shiel. This will take some time, though, as House Vire production facilities are considerably smaller than those of House Shiel. The consulate court fears an overt attack by a foreign power could exploit this weakness. Leaders of the Retribution insist that they will fight to guarantee that such an eventuality never comes to pass, but their assurances seem very hollow. House Shiel has turned a deaf ear to the entries to institute an equitable division in military resources. In addition to the impact of the withdrawal of these 2 Hautair, the Retribution recruitment has taken its toll on the force strength of the Home Guard. The remaining 4 military houses have expressed concern that the Retribution's rising popularity could reduce their numbers to unacceptable levels. For now, the border remains secure, but it has yet to be seriously tested. With the Retribution escalating hostilities abroad, it seems inevitable that its enemies will eventually bring the fight to Ios, and the worst fears of the consulate court might be realized. Despite this, the human nations and rule have always considered Ios's borders impregnable, and this reputation may serve where strength of arms alone would not. Addendum. Politics and religion in Ios. Religion is an unavoidable fact in Iosan politics, as it has been since the inception of the nation. When Ios was created, the 8 gods of the divine court walked among the citizens. It was natural that they would be integrated into the government of the new nation. The divine court is the highest authority in the land, above even the consulate court. Although the gods left governance to mortals and rarely invoked this privilege, even then when they were still present, this law invested that authority remains. After the departure of the gods, these laws were expanded to apply to Iosan clergy. The ranking priests of the fanes were invited to represent the divine court in the consulate court when they exercised considerable influence. When the Rivening toppled the other fanes, this function fell exclusively to the fane of Skyrah. Members of the Arlisius Vanland, Skyrah's leading priests, freely attend the consulate court, and their words still hold considerable sway. With the Retribution's recent rise to prominence, its priests have been petitioning for identical recognition. Oracle Ravenel Lumiere has demanded the right to participate as a representative of Skyrah on the consulate court. The Fane of Skyrah have vehemently objected, but this matter has been left undecided. This concession seems a matter of time. Should it come to pass, it would further legitimize the entire sect in the minds of the average Iosan citizen. End addendum.